Hi guys, today I'm going to teach you a fantastic way to create procedural grass in Poser. Here's an example of it rendered on a simple high resolution square with Victoria's legs just for some scale. Now there are lots of other ways of creating grass. There's bitmapped grass, there's billboard grass, there's grass built in scenes, and there's tiled grass, but each of them has some major limitations, be they realism or the amount of CPU power that or GPU power they take to render. But what I think you'll find is that this solution is excuse me, this solution pretty much ticks all of the boxes, and probably the greatest benefit of this is that you can place it on any terrain, no matter how large or how small, and you can choose where on the terrain it goes, and it's very easy to edit the colour, the shape. You can make it blow in the wind, you can make it respond to gravity. There's all kinds of great things you can do with this grass. What I'm going to do is show you how to make procedural grass using the hair room. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to load a simple prop. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go into my primitives, which is in props, Poser, primitives, doesn't have to be Poser 6, Poser 12, whatever, and then click on square high res. And what makes this high resolution, here's the square, let me just get rid of this silly background, hide that. What makes this high resolution is that it has a lot of polygons. Even though it's a simple four-sided shape, it's a four-sided shape made up of lots and lots of other polygons within, and that's going to be great because the technique that I'm going to show you actually requires polygons, lots of polygons, to actually generate the grass. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the hair room, make sure this shape is selected. I'm going to go back to texture shaded, and then we're going to click new growth group. And just for now, I'm just going to call it grass. Okay, so that's now created a separate object to the cloth plane. So now we have to click edit growth group. And at this point, this is where you could choose just to choose certain polygons. See, the plus is selected there, so I'm choosing what polygons to do the grass. And if I wanted to, the simulation would only work on those areas, but I'm going to select everything here. So just going to draw a marquee, and there you go, everything's done. So grow guide hairs next, and that grows these little indicator hairs. So these are not the actual blades of grass, these are just proxies or representations of where the grass will be and what shape it will be. They're not super accurate, and they don't update to everything you do, but they are a good start. So we're going to go down here. Hair length, that is actually grass length, think of it that way. Length variance is how different one blade of grass is to another. You know, some will be long, some will be short, and we'll talk about these ones later. But for now, these are the really important settings down here. So with hair, every piece of hair is more or less a tube of a similar thickness. So you see, as I render that, well, apart from the fact it's dark, it's just a lot of little spindly pieces of hair. Okay, let me just ensure that I'm rendering to the same. There we go, preview render. So first thing I need to do is give this some grassiness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the root width to 5. And now when I render, that should be a little bit more, have a bit more body to it. Yes, as you can see. Now, why is it black? Because it's interacting badly with the light, and because the hair material is rubbish. So I'm going to select the material room. Sorry, I'm rushing through here. Click the material room. Then I'm going to choose props, and there's grass. Now by default, because it's a hair simulation, it has a hair shader attached, and the hair shader is great. It lets you change the tip and the root to give you like highlights and stuff like that, but it's not what we want for this. So I'm just going to delete that, and then I'm going to right click and create a new node, 2D textures, image map, and this is the real magic of this technique. Now I connect that image map to the diffuse color node, left click there to change the color to white. So now whatever image I put in here will be visible there. And now I'm going to find a grass bitmap. So this is just a square tileable bitmap that I downloaded off the internet. And if I show you here now, that's what it looks like, plugged into there. Now a few more things I need to do. Just change the specular color to white because I don't want it throwing any kind of hue onto it. Then I'm going to decrease the specular value down to 0.1, so 1/10 as much. Going to leave everything else the same. And just that little change, look what happens when I render that. So already you have enough to start making grass. Okay, but there are a few things that are going to make this simulation even better. So let me zoom in where we can really see what's going on here a bit. Okay, zoom in and go up because I want you to be able to see the edge as well. Okay, so let me just quickly render this area. So I'm just doing a very quick renders here. I have it set to five samples using my GPU, and you can see already there's some nice shaping going on there, and there's also some nice color variation. But now what I want to do is add a little bit of clumpiness. Okay, so clumpiness. Excuse me. If you think of your hair, every single blade of every single fiber of your hair is not exactly equidistant from everything else, and they don't all move in the same direction. So if you put clumpiness, that's going to give it a tendency to clump together slightly, and you can change the amount there. But I'm just going to change this up to 3. And as I say, this is where the preview doesn't work very well, but you will see it in the render. You see these are kind of clumping together in little stalks now, and that looks a lot more realistic, but there's still far too much space between the blades of grass. So let me just cancel that. And this is a really important number, hair density. So a little goes a long way with this. You know, I tried putting this up to 10,000 and it made my computer crash. But we are going to go to 1,000 here from 432. So that increases the number of hairs per square inch or square foot, square centimetre, however you like to think of it. And again, that will make that look much more realistic. Okay, and it works better. Oh, I did 100. I want 1,000. Thought that wasn't looking right. Now, strangely, that hasn't increased the horizontal density, but it actually does when it renders. There you go. So these are all numbers. You can play with the settings to find things that you like, but I find that this kind of gives a nice look. Maybe to even turn the clumpiness down to 2. Let's see if that looks a bit more realistic. Again, these settings will work differently at different distances as well. Yeah, perhaps that's a little bit better. Clumpiness of 2. Okay, now there's one more very important thing from the start. So let me just zoom out and do a render where you can see the whole thing. Okay, so that kind of looks a bit cornfieldish up at this angle where they're all clumpy. You might turn the clumpiness down. It depends on your viewing angle, to be honest. But just to show you that render again here. But you'll know. Oh, sorry, I'm all over the place. You'll notice that the white background, the square underneath, is visible. And you could just turn that off and whatever is underneath would show through. But if you're taking an existing terrain, you probably just leave the texture that's there and just put the grass on top. However, I'll show you a trick if you're not using an existing terrain. So here is the grass texture, the grass material. It's called hair, but it's grass. So I marquee selected both of those, or you could just select the poser surface and do select all here. Then copy, and now we're going to go over to props cloth plane. So that's the base thing that is on. Select that root node and then do replace. So now what we've got is exactly the same grass texture is now acting as a base. Now the scale here is way out, so I'm just going to reduce that to 1/10 as much in the U and V, which are equivalent to X and Y if you're used to coordinates on paper. And now when I render that, that looks a lot nicer. Now the beauty of being able to change the base independently of the grass is that you could possibly put, say, a very dusty base, or a much paler base than the grass. Also, of course, where you can change the grass texture itself in the material room here, you could just put any tileable grass texture in there. So if you want very dry grass, you could go and find a photograph of very yellow grass, and then that will colour the grass accordingly. If you want very verdant grass, you could get very dark green grass texture there. Now let's just go back to the hair simulation a moment. I just need to show you some important things. So we can actually shape this. This simulation will respond to magnets, it will respond to wind, and it will respond to gravity. So these hairs will move around if you use any of those force generators from up here. See, we can create a magnet, wind force, whatever you want. Okay, so you could have a field of blowing grass or whatever, and they will actually respond to that. But there are some other things you can do here. These three settings here enable you to set some initial conditions: pull back, pull down, and pull side. You only need to move them a little bit, but if I zoom in where you can see the edge here, oh, I've lost my hand group. There we go. Pull back, you might think of that as greasing your hair back, so it goes from the peak of your head back to the nape of your neck. So here, if I just do change that to, instead of 0.15, I'm going to go say 0.5. Watch the things at the back. Well, it's hard to see, but you can see they all curl backwards. If I reset that, do pull side. So this would be good if you've got maybe you want grass that's been washed down or beaten down by rain. So we do pull to side and say there we go 0.005. And you see that's pulled to the side. If you want to pull to the other side, you just do the minus number. Minus there, and it blows the other way. Okay, so that could be flattened grass, that could be flattened corn. And again, bear in mind that you can change the length here. So if you made this very long grass, this could put a gentle lean in it for the wind, or it depends if you're doing a simulation, if you're of an animation, or you're just doing a single frame. You could preset this so that it's blowing over to the side here. Now, there is something very, very important that you need to know, and that's that this simulation is resolution dependent, or scale dependent rather, I'm sorry, not resolution dependent. So the scale of the terrain or polygons that you put it onto will determine the effect. So, for example, if I take this here, I'll just get rid of that pull to side. If I render this like this, I'll just render a small area, just to remind you. That looks pretty good at that scale, yes? Now, if I change the size of the grass group, of the cloth group rather, if I change the scale to, let's say, 1000%, obviously the grass that we put as a base is changed, but also the height and the spindliness of the grass has changed. Okay, that didn't even notice, but let me zoom in really close where you can see it. So you see how fine that looks now. So what I'd have to do to get that proportional is to also increase the root width by, so what I do, I did 10 times as much, so I'd do 50, and the tip width maybe to 4, and now if I render that, hopefully that kind of goes back to looking, there you go, goes back to looking appropriate. Okay, so just bear in mind, you may create a simulation on a very large area, say a background terrain, and all you're seeing is these little spindly bits of hairy grass, and you just need to increase the root width. I suggest by order of 10, order of 100, order of 1,000, and then increase the tip width proportionally so that this looks appropriate. Okay. There's one more thing. Now, it could be that you manually want to move the grass around rather than depending on a wind force or something like that. What you can do is select your grass and just do style hairs here, and it may open up here, and you just need to change the select the hairs that you're going to style. So I'm just going to choose them all. That's with this option here. See, these little yellow nodule things have kind of come up on the top of each hair, and now I can just move them there. I don't know if you can animate that. I've never tried, but that's a good way, and I can move those forwards, backwards. I can move those any angle. Whereas the pull back, down, and side only work in the cardinal compass directions, you can translate these in any way you want. Okay, and you can do individual blades of grass as well. So, I mean, it's a lot of extra control. I personally wouldn't mess about with this too much, I guess, on anything except for a scale of everything. If that makes sense. Like, I wouldn't be messing about with individual blades of grass, but it's up to you. Anyway, I hope that gives you some ideas, guys, and I hope that this is recorded because it's my 5th time of trying. And I will speak to you guys later. Take care.